What up, everybody? Welcome to the Live Reality Games Podcast. I'm Daniel Ball. He's Steven Stewart, and we got Survivor Season 48 to recap. We got 2 episodes. And Steven, let me just, prepare everybody. The reason why we needed some time is because Mary is gone. I needed an extra week of mourning to get over the fact that Mary is no longer in the game. And so I appreciate everybody, the condolences, the cards, the flowers, everything that was sent to the fan club for her demise. I appreciate that. But Steven, we gotta, we'll break it down. First episode 11, Mary's departure. Pretty underwhelming episode, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I don't remember. I know it's been a week, but man, I think that episode encapsulated a lot of the frustrations people have this season. Just kind of watching, here's a majority alliance going into the game. Here is Kyle, Shaheen. Should we flip? No, we like these people too much. You're like, oh.
I think it's a tough job from the editing standpoint because when they see this tribal, I think they did everything they could to make a compelling episode to make it look like it's going to be different. And they did a good job, I guess, of making us feel like there might have been an option. But I really think the reality is there wasn't any other options other than it was going to be Mary. It was clear it was Mary. So they had to do something to make it look like it wasn't so people would be entertained, because had you known it was Mary from the jump and there was nothing other than the way they edited it telling you it was anyone else or could be anybody else other than Mary, it would have been a very, very, very boring episode. And at least there was some moments in there where Mary tried and you had some inner conflict with Kyle and some people on what to do. But still, I think it just ended the way.
I like the coconuts. I like the coconut part. Mm-hmm. I like the immunity challenge. Yeah.
I want to go through it a little bit though and kind of get your take. Obviously the start of episode 11, Mary is working the circuit, man. She's going to everybody, which you're doing, and she's making her pitch. And then in her head it's convincing and it's appealing, but in the eyes of the others, they're hearing her, but they're not putting a lot of stock into what she's saying, because I think, like I said before, I think they knew, we know which way we're going and we're ready to move on past Mary, and she's not going to be a part of this. We'll hear what she has to say, but we're not going to do a whole lot. But so outside of that, then you get Kyle in this conflict about whether or not he says, can he beat Joe and should he make a move on Joe? So let me ask you, Steven, what has Joe done that makes Kyle believe that Joe has played a better game than him?
Because I think when you look at the season, you look at who has run this alliance and determined who goes and when, you'd probably say, I think Joe has had a lot of sway. He's won a lot of immunities. He's been the figurehead or the forefront of this majority alliance. He is in a very blatant two-person pair with Eva that we have allowed. And anytime that we've wanted to get Joe, no plans have manifested, right? And so I think that alone puts a lot of weight toward Joe. Now, we've kind of mentioned, there's a bit of a potential hypocrisy. People might gun for final tribal council, which he may not respond well. And we've seen, in this episode, especially in episode 12, just Joe is surprisingly a more nervous player when he's not immune. But I think Joe checks a lot of boxes for what could be a very dominant winner.
Yeah, and what's crazy is so some people are like, all right, well, can Joe win it all just being this physical challenge threat? And in my eyes, typically no, but he's embarking on something that hasn't been done since season 2. He could theoretically, and had he turned some blocks the right way in this episode, he probably would be right there. And I do think that is enough. When you say this feat hasn't been done since season 2. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like that is something in and of itself that is worthy of at least giving some credence to as far as hanging your hat on a win. Like, I completely dominated the things that needed to be done in order for me to have a shot to win. And on top of that, did have a little bit on the back end outside of those challenges where I was able to manipulate and get people to come to me, because I think what Joe has done a masterful job is putting himself in a position where, for whatever reason, people want to talk to him about
His
them.
his social game feels almost effortless. I
Yes.
felt this way about Mike in season 42, where he just naturally was kind of gifted at it. Now, he got lambasted at the end because he couldn't reconcile what he did and what he believed.
Mhm.
But like Joe has been masterfully put together a dominant cross tribal alliance, which we know is really hard to do. A lot of people dream of doing it, but he put together and held it, right? Like, I think Joe's best thing is he kind of like Kyle is against Joe, it seems, at
Yeah.
the start of merge, and he flips Joe. And so Joe flips Kyle. And Kyle is like with Joe to the point where Kyle's like, I can't flip on Joe.
Yeah. I think people look at this effortless social game that Joe has and go, well, he's not doing anything. Well, because he doesn't have to. Like,
Mhm.
and that is doing something when you don't have to have people make people come to you, and you just have this aura where they want to come to you. Like, that's a special skill that not everybody has.
Mhm.
But let's talk Eva. Obviously, a boat pulls up and it's journey time. They have to pick one person to go on the journey. They all wanted to go on it, but they end up drawing rocks. Eva wins. I I will say this. I think out of all the people that had the opportunity to go, I don't think Eva needs to go. I think she needs to pull her name out of this, even though everyone is like, well, let's just go to rocks, because in my opinion, it's a tough sell on Eva winning if she continues to get these luck things, if that makes sense.
I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I think as a player, I want to be greedy. I want to have all the opportunities to get all the things and be in control. I think Eva's challenge is like you had the things and like I think what she's doing is like I didn't need to play the things, but things I had, the advantages I had, the safety without power, the idol, I was able to stifle opposition with that. I was able to bend people to my side out of the fear that I would play something against them, and I just so as a result didn't need to play them because they serve their purpose. So I personally don't like the fact there's like default rock draw. It's like, man, like, do you want to be more fun? Have a simple challenge, simple endurance challenge. Who wants to go the most? And so people can say, if I want to go, I can just drop out.
Yep. And then if you really see how badly somebody wants it or how badly someone needs it.
Well, especially given that it's safety without power, and like I know it's like it would change the game if it was in, but like it's a wild thing to see this deep, and given how public Eva's advantages are, been wild if anyone else got their hands on it. If
Right.
Shaheen gets that advantage, what does he do? I don't know. If Mira gets the advantage, I know exactly what she
Exactly.
does.
Yeah.
But Kyle and Camila, I don't know what they do with it.
Um, so that brings up an interesting question. The journey itself, I mean, you're stacking tiles in rows, and if 4 rows up, you obviously lose your vote to start. If
Mhm.
you can make 4 rows, you get your vote back. If you can make 8 rows or 8 levels, um, you get an advantage. And so, you know, giving that it was Eva, like, it almost like took
Joy out of it.
the joy out of it, because she's probably going to get 4 and she's probably not going to go any further,
Yeah,
because
I would have
at
loved
some
if she
point
did
she
go
gets
further.
well, yeah, but at some point if she gets it, it's like, oh, well, we know that you're not, like, you can't physically use all of these things that you have over the next 3
She could. I mean,
tribals.
what's wild is if she had it, she could have asked Shaheen at Tribal Council, do you have an idol? He says no. They're like, great. This confirms that Kyle's lying to us.
But she chooses
Yes.
to stop at 4, and I mean, that's the smart move. If you're
Agreed.
her, what do? You have to stop, right?
Get your vote. Go home.
Yeah, because I mean, at this point, you know how it is. The later you get in these games and the less people you have, your vote means a ton. Like
Mhm.
you can't go without it because she automatically becomes a target. Even if she's not on your radar, not having a vote and people knowing that,
Mhm.
you become a target. Like you just do. Because it's like, well, now we can flush one of these things that she has and she doesn't have a vote and we can get maybe somebody else that we want to go after out as well. Um, you know, Mary, after the journey, Mary, basically Eva tells everybody what happened. Mary's going around
Which, like,
pitching.
I, I admire the bald face honesty, but like, it was kind of just like, well, guess what I got? It was the advantage I didn't need, and I said no to it. Everyone's like, oh,
Oh,
well, cool. We would have loved that.
and meanwhile, Mary's like, "You want to play that on me?" And she's like, "Absolutely not." um, you know, Mary brings up, the pitch to Shaheen, but really she tells him a hard truth, and it's something that I think a lot of people lose sight of in this game is that it's great, it's outwit, outplay, but not out loyal. Like it doesn't matter if you're as loyal as possible. Like that's not a requirement
I,
to win.
so you can out loyal if you sit next to two other loyal people,
Right.
right?
But when's the last
I
time we've had a winner that was I'm gonna be loyal all the way through and don't want to get my like it is
I think had Joe taken David to the end with Eva, Joe's out loyal would have won.
yeah.
I think hands down, I think he would have been rewarded for that. I I don't know if taking Shaheen would have given him that. I was just kind of reading comments around and people like saying, well, Shaheen said the jury was really in his favor. But I think if Shaheen sits the end with Joe, and Shaheen's a debate professor, he probably has a really great spin on it. But I think it might have been tough for Shaheen to do something and said, like, yeah, you seem like a sneaky kind of character I want to root for, but like I don't know what you did, and I'm gonna attribute things to the figure out your group Joe.
Yeah. I want you to come back to that because as we get into the next episode, like I want to talk about Shaheen's stance and what he says about how he feels he perceives the game and how he feels like
Yeah.
he is
I mean,
the
because we,
better
we got we
player.
got insight into people's perceptions of who's a threat and who isn't, which I
Yeah.
loved.
They go to immunity. It's a wheelbarrow balancing a vase.
Mary's
You gotta,
challenge piece breaks my heart.
yeah, and so it's Camilla beats Joe because at the end there's a arch puzzle and Joe has one symbol that is turned the wrong way with
Okay,
the
but
wrong
you're
color.
missing the other word Joe tries to submit.
Well, there's a ton of words
Got
that
fun
were
betrayal, the.
there's a ton of words that were shown that make absolutely no sense.
I
And
mean, yeah, that's how are you at word scrambles?
I'm okay. I mean, I think like what I think I do a good job of in a word scramble is condensing the amount of words it could be into like this is the lens that I'm going to look for this
Mhm.
word in. When a lot of people can't do it, like they're thinking too broad about what the word could be. Like I'm immediately going to go to something related to what we're doing and what's going on, and a lot of people may not be able to do that in the moment. But that's a
Yeah,
big word, and I
it's a
think
long word.
but
Really good
sometimes I
at
think the
5 letter
longer the
word
word
puzzles.
yeah, but I think sometimes the longer the word, the easier it is to figure it out.
True. I don't know. I don't know in that moment. It's just like I have low faith myself in word challenges. So I mean, everyone's cheating off a Camille. I'm like, yeah, I'd do that too. I'd have no
Yeah.
qualms.
I mean, you would think after 48 damn seasons, Steven, like we would figure out a way around the cheating.
No, I think Survivor embraces it. I think Survivor it's part of the game. No, some challenges they'll have it so like you can cover your work once you're done. Like
But
I've
like
seen
this
like
is this is a challenge where I feel like
you can't.
everybody's going to get to it and once if you look at somebody who is ahead of you, who has busted their ass to get ahead of you, like you're taking all the really the thing that makes people good at this, the ability to figure out the word, and you take it completely out of the equation, like the equalizer
Because we
of
don't
the
we
challenge.
just want brute strength and like skill winners. We don't want smart winners. We don't want small female players winning challenges that are meant for Joe, clearly.
I mean, I
But Camille
that's the
wins.
one.
It's all good.
Then, so my thing is like if you're gonna put puzzles at the end and you're gonna create this thing where it's the equalizer to
Put a
make it,
divider.
yeah, put a divider up. I don't think there's a problem. Or build a table where you have to do the puzzle in the table where you can't look over and see what's going. Or I got an idea, a crazy idea, Steven, probably something that's never been thought of. How about everybody gets something different? Like, oh my God, we can't come up with five
No,
word
we
like
can't come up with unique challenges. So what we we can come up with unique words for a single challenge.
I mean, come on, man. You got the dream team, man. They can't figure out like a few different words
But we did
combination.
have barrel racing in episode 12, so yeah.
There it is. Yep. Let's see. We got reward. They talk Mary. They talk about Mary and keeps Eva feeling safe. They're back at camp. Mary's, no one wants to talk to Mary. And that's clear indication like, hey, you need to figure something out. I think she goes walking around, probably looking for idols or something, unsuccessful at that. Everyone comes back and, basically it's Kyle and Camilla talking about which way they're going to go. Why not Joe? Like they talk about it, they flirt with it, they say we need to do this. We have an opportunity, but why not? Like why not just do it already?
So the problem is it's not Camila, it's Kyle. Because I think Camila would take that shot all day, every day.
Yeah.
Right? Because Camila, I think, is unfortunately the third wheel. She's like, she can't do anything without Kyle, and Kyle's the decision maker, right? Just given their lines. And it's hard to turn down a Final Four.
Yeah.
Right? Knowing that I'm in a guaranteed Final Four, it makes me kind of feel like, well, I kind of want to roll this, which again is the issue with the Fire making Final Three and not having Final Two. I wish for season 50 we could have voted on Final Three, Final Two. I would have done that in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
We can only vote on idols right now, which
I'm
by the way,
kind of underwhelmed with the whole voting process. Like I don't feel like it was that great.
I felt like the big things were like somehow twists and advantages or idols are all separate things, which that was interesting. But we can at least say, but I thought it was interesting is like, how much twists versus how much advantages, which generally I almost feel like twists give advantages. So I was like interested that there's a differentiation. But I guess twist is like you're going to lose your votes or like swap. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought we were voting on swaps or
we voted on swaps, tribe swaps.
That's true. Starting tribe sizes would have been interesting.
Like I could care less about the colors. Like don't even ask me. I don't
the
care.
aesthetic stuff was funny.
Yeah, I don't care about colors. It doesn't bother me. Like I want to have a say in the gameplay. Do you want to see X, Y, or Z in the game that make a difference? The colors of the tribes don't make a difference in my world. They just don't.
So when it comes to idols, how did you vote?
Just straight up. Like, what is it? What were the options? Was it just
yes idols, no idols?
I did yes idols. I like the ability to have idols. I think it throws a small wrench into it, and I think it keeps the like what happened with Mary, where everybody just throws a million votes on Mary. It gives that extra thought about, well, what if? And it may end up being all Mary, but it does give you something else to think about. And I think personally, in a season 50 where you're having what you're considering a lot of really good players come back, let them play, but also give them the opportunity to show and outsmart and outplay and outwit some people with idols or with some things. I don't necessarily think all these things should be taken away and it should be just a straightforward game.
There's a happy medium, right?
Yeah.
It's like I want there to be some stuff. I don't want there to be an overwhelming stuff. I think part of the challenge is like given it's a film product and they're limited by constraints, like they can't do some of the more intricate things that you could do in like a live reality game. Like
Yeah.
I still think Fire Tokens, like there's a world where they're good and they're interesting and they're useful, but like it becomes a whole thing. Like, because I can tell you from surviving Bloomington, it's like, how many keys do you have? Where are the keys at?
Yeah.
What's going on with the keys? It's kind of like you just kind of have to just accept like this person has X many keys and so be it.
Well, and spoiler alert, you get somebody who gets keys and then they give them away immediately. They turn in their advantage to get the keys and they show everybody that they have it and then they give it away immediately and everyone sees like what is transpiring like
Yeah.
and like you said, the keys are great and it's a great component of the game, but I like if you was to ask me who has the most keys, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
Who, like even if you were to ask me who has one key in Bloomington, I don't know.
Yeah. And so going back to your original question, Kyle and Shaheen, it's hard for them to turn down a Final Four deal. It's hard to say no to that. And I can't blame him, but it's the question of like, you should say yes to a Final Four deal if you think you can win the Final Four, right? And episode 11, I was like, I don't know if Shaheen and Kyle would win in the final three with Eva and Joe. Episode 12 changes that.
I was 100% on the I do not think Shaheen could win in episode 11.
Mm-hmm.
And then episode 12, I felt the same way, but for a different reason. And, we'll get into that. Obviously, we can go straight to, Mary tries to do some chaos prior to tribal, tells, Joe, she's writing Joe's name down, gets Joe thinking about, oh shit, could it be me? Like, whatever.
And like Joe's reaction is just like, it's like this guy's been immune for so often. It's just like, he reacts badly. And it's like, oh my gosh, man. Like, if I was playing someone that I knew I could spook like that, oh.
I mean, and that's the thing. And we'll see a little bit more of Joe and his reactions in episode 12 because it's telling. Like it is like very much like a real thing for Joe getting into his own head about when people say he might be the vote, which may or may not have any credibility behind it, but like he starts really like overanalyzing the game almost to his detriment. But we go to tribal. It's 100% Mary, except for Mary does what she says and votes Joe. Mary goes home, pour one out for old Mary.
No perfect game for Joe.
No perfect game for Joe.
Is that his first vote received?
Maybe. I think so.
Yeah, it's his first vote received, only from Mary. She's the only one brave enough to do it.
Wow. Well, that's how episode 12 or 11 ends. And let's just go right into 12 with, your boy Mitch. He said he's so happy to make Final Six. Of course.
Mitch is a sweet soul. That's all he wants in life.
That's all he wants to do. We get more of Eva and the core four talking about who it's going to be and when. They're saying it's going to be Mitch now and then Camilla, and they're all happy and feeling like they're good on the same page. Kyle, however, is saying he's torn on which way he wants to go. Like I am over the Kyle. Like, I think Kyle has played the best game.
I have so many options. What do I do?
Yeah, I'm tired of him going, I don't know what to do.
And I have a secret alliance with Camila that no one knows about.
Right. There's a comment that says, do you think Kyle wins over Joe at Final Tribal if they both go? I 100% think Kyle wins over Joe. Yeah. And this episode right here is why. Because Joe has been in a situation, and we talked about Joe in like not having to put effort into the social game, which shouldn't be taken away from him, but it's definitely not something he's had to work for. People just come to him and tell him things. But, outside of that, he is the challenge guy who is winning a lot of challenges and having immunity and hasn't had to do the things that Kyle has had to do to put himself in this position. And I look at all of those things that Kyle has been able to do with his secret alliance with Camilla that somehow only David still knows about. Um,
Well,
and
I mean,
and
because it's you have to assume Final Six, everyone has a relationship with each other, everyone's talking to each other. It's just, I think secret relationship is probably not the right word. It's like, secret writer dies. I think is the
right.
is the better description. It's like no one realizes that they are playing so hard, or not that they're playing with each other, but no one realizes like they are so just on the same page and doing things like this.
Yeah, and then you got Shaheen, who he is convinced. Shaheen is convinced that he is playing the best game of anybody.
And he's playing fine,
He's
from what we
playing,
can tell.
but what makes him think he is playing the best game?
We don't hear in a confessional him giving us any sense of like, here's what I would say if I sat with Joe and Eva. Here's what I'd say if I sat against Kyle. Here's what I'd say if I sat against Camille or Mitch. We don't know how he's going to spin or pitch his story, right?
Mhm.
And as a viewer, we see that he's been targeted. He's caught some votes. We see that he's been staunchly loyal to this alliance, and he has dabbled with the idea of jumping ship, but like he hasn't taken any action. And like, and maybe he gets to the end and says, "I'm the brain, they're the brawn. Anything they did was because of me." And like maybe if he did maybe if he did at the end, and if he did win that way, we would see that in that more reflected episodes.
Yeah, I think Shaheen, given that he's a debate professor, I think he's chomping at the bit to make it to final three
Mm-hmm.
and give a chance to plead his case. And I think he got too comfortable in the fact that they're gonna take me there and didn't really see something like this happening. But the reality is like Kyle had recognized his place in this four
Mm-hmm.
and knew it was either gonna be him going or Shaheen going. And if you're gonna make sure it's not you, then you have to make a play. And so this is why, when I talk about it, I think this is where Kyle jumped up on the leaderboard for me is because he's recognizing like I need to advance my placement by getting rid of someone that's either in the same level as me or someone that might be ahead of me. And so it can't be
I guess
him.
I
And
viewed it differently.
okay.
Not. I thought I never viewed Shaheen as like I'm getting rid of a threat. I'm like carving out my way because you still. The problem is, if you're going to the final four with Joe and Eva,
Yeah.
you're probably going to the fire because Joe and Eva are not going to the fire, and they're
Right.
saving each other, right? And so like, unless you're knocking out one of them, taking out Shaheen just keeps you in the fire position at final four.
Yeah.
The way I viewed it is that Kyle has a strong ride or die with Camila, and he from the inside of this majority alliance, he has carved it out and made a spot for Camila. Right? He's basically said, "Hey, I can sit the end, and this was my ideal final four: Joe, Eva, and Camila. How did I do it? I got Joe and Eva the flip on David and Mary. I got Joe and Eva then flip on the flip on Shine. All of their allies who are willing to go with the end and willing to write their name down. I got Joe the flip on his own allies, go against his word, and take me and my bestie here.
You know, pretty compelling case.
Yeah.
And you know, they get to go on reward. That's it's honestly this reward challenge is one of my favorite challenges. It's very simple. You hold on or you don't.
How would you do? And does it help having a ganglion sister not?
Yes, it probably helps. I think I would do all right. I think for me, like it becomes like, all right, can I get myself in a position where I'm utilizing larger muscles and not those smaller muscles? And as you go down on these rungs, what does it feel like on the hands?
My hands are too big.
Yeah, and I think that might, play a factor.
It's like
Um,
the challenges of the footholds. I'm like, man, my size 15 feet get no
yeah,
advantage from
no,
these.
not helping. I think I would do all right. I don't know if I would necessarily win, but I think I would be close.
I would just try to get to the final stage before dropping. Like when Camila just really shoots down, like that's where I'd want to be. It's like getting the end is like, all right, I've done the stages. I'm not winning, but
And the thing is like it's for reward and it's it's very taxing, I would say, on the body to be
But
able to
sleep,
do it.
sleep is
And
huge.
right. So it's kind of this like really like if you don't feel as though you can even compete, then get up there and just be like, all right, I'm not even gonna waste my energy trying to do this.
Um, and your
So
letters
like
from home, if you can
so
get
like
3
Mitch,
letters,
well, yeah, but I think we've had this conversation before. Like, I
you
love
don't
my
care.
family and all, like, but like that's not gonna be the maker. Like the sleep part, like I'm gonna say this again. I love my family, but the sleep part I think would intrigue me more than the letters from home. Um, and that's nice. They get that. It's probably I haven't been away from my family for more than, 4 or 5 days at a time, and so, like, I'm sure after 20 days, it's nice to be able to get that. Like, I'm sure I would have a different feeling about it in that moment, but for $1,000,000, like, I'll see y'all in a few days. We're good. Um
It's day like 22 at this point or something like that, 21.
Yeah. You do, at the reward, you do get a very powerful moment that I had no idea about. Joe talks about and opens up about his sister. And I'm sure this has been public knowledge. I mean, if you know the cast, you can probably find background on them. But what a heavy thing to like sit with and put out there. Like that
Yeah.
is something and you get the full story because Joe then later goes to the beach and has a moment after the reward to kind of like reflect and like kind of what he says get closure on it. But it's definitely a powerful moment. And I will say this for season 48 is there's some big time powerful moments in this season. And that's, kudos to the the editors and producers and whoever's putting those moments together because even though they may be reasons why you would cast someone, it makes it very like I can connect to these people a little bit better because of these stories, if that makes sense.
Hmm. I
Um,
mean, look at the season as a whole. I know we shouldn't do it, but like, I thought we had a dynamic and interesting pre-merge with we get a disaster tribe, but I don't mind disaster tribes per se, and say certainly kept our screens electric. And
oh,
Cedric hit every
Cedric.
voted for 8 people in 6 episodes, something stupid like that. Um, but then at the merge, we have a scattered minority, which lets just this majority kind of tromp through the game. And I think the two probably the best episodes of the season will be David and Shaheen going out,
Yeah.
where you see Kyle and Camila and co kind of like carve out this alliance from the inside, much to the ringleader's detriment.
Yeah. You get Mitch, doesn't get to go on the reward, and he's frustrated because he feels like now, like at 6, he can't make any moves. And guess what? I have no sympathy for Mitch, Steven. He had plenty of opportunity to make moves, and now he wants to whine and cry about
He
not
doesn't
being
trust
able to make
Marion
a move.
Starr. What can he do?
All right, let me ask you this. Where, like, I need the full story on how, and maybe this is for another day, and maybe this comes out later after the season, but how does Marion Starr get this such a bad stigma of not
I
being
don't know.
able to be trusted?
I mean, I don't know. And I think the problem is like we never hear from Mitch saying like, I'm not making a move now because at final 7, I'm gonna flip Kyle. Right? Our final 7, I'm flipping Shaheen. We never get a sense of, I'm not doing this because I think the timing is here. We're just is
Yeah.
like, no. And the worst is like, yes, if this is the move right now, the flip on like everyone's flipping on Shaheen, Mitch isn't the driver. I
No.
mean, so Mitch can sit at the end, he can say, look at me, I survived everything. Um, but you're there at someone else's request. It's like Kyle's like, yeah, he survived because of me.
Yeah. I get it. Like you get to a point where you keep saying, well, if I can just make it another day, then I'll have more options or I can evaluate my options. But at
It's
some
hard when
point
there's a duo.
right. And you have to recognize that. And I think that's the one thing that Mitch is failing to really like. He might recognize it, but he's not like putting the pieces together and going, I need to do something. Um,
I'm looking at the wiki right now, and like, because I was like, and just the players, and like, it always amuses me. Like, Mitch is 34. I'm just like, how is he 34? It's like he seems like in his 40s to me, which is so
Yeah.
terrible to say. I don't know. He just gives you. I just feel like he's older than he is.
I mean,
Am I wild for saying
look,
thinking that?
look, we can't judge people by their age. I mean, Sue was 72 and claimed to
Look what
be
she
50.
accomplished.
She was so good. So good. Oh man. At the reward, Shaheen and Kyle talk about options, and Kyle kind of sees the writing on the wall that he has to take out Shaheen because as Shaheen's going through the options, Shaheen is telling Kyle, look, man, we've got to throw our allies under the bus, and we have to do it now because there's other options out there, but Shaheen's or Kyle's thrown off at the fact that Shaheen's announcing this because why are you now wanting to turn on your allies when there's other easier votes out there like Mitch? Or so I don't know. I think that had a little bit to do with swaying Kyle. I don't know if it was the full reason. I think Camilla had a lot to do with Kyle wanting to flip and get
It makes you
Shaheen out.
wonder. Has Mitch? Sorry, not Mitch. Has Shaheen? Like, is this the first real conversation Shaheen's having with Kyle about like other options? Let's consider everyone. Let's talk through things. You and I are in the middle. Is it like, which is wild to think that was the first time because you'd think like the two of them should be having like, hey, we recognize your position. Let's keep each other appraised. Whatever one should do, we should do with the other. And I think it's,
I
uh,
I can
it,
resonate with Shaheen in this
yeah,
situation because in Survivor Angelica, um, there was a core four that we had formed from the beginning: me, Katie, Santi, and Tara. Katie ends up winning the game, but after in these recaps that we did, Katie was like, part of the reason like I went after you was because you and I felt as though we were 3 and 4 of this core four. And in order to advance my placement, I needed to go and do something to get myself ahead of you. But the reality was is we never talked about gameplay. It was always in that 4 and it was always a collaborative effort. It was never us having those conversations together because had we had those conversations, I think much like Shaheen and Kyle, they probably could have been on a better page than if
yeah.
you just have it this one time.
So my first game ever, I was at the merge was 13. I'm in the dominant alliance at the merge, so we're able to take out our first two targets in the merge. And I think there's like six or seven of us, and there's a minority. And Pete, who played Survivor New York, Survivor Real Foot on the crew there, was like, just stick with the seven, just stick with the seven. It's all about the seven. And for me, I was like, I do not want to stick with the seven because where am I in the seven? You're not telling me. This gives me no reassurance whatsoever. And
Right.
I'm looking and like, so I was actually kind of like, do I bail? How does it happen? Now, unfortunately for me, other people flip. I'm now in the minority, and then I just have then I am like I am similar to Mitch, where I kind of endure it. I'm the last option people are considering, and that gets me to the end of the game. I lose. So
But you got there.
but in a lot of tears and misery.
What
Not
what is better
ideal.
though? Like what is the better is it better just to go out and be on the jury at 4 or 5 knowing like you haven't done anything to like really solidify a winning move? Or do you just go, I'm gonna ride it out. If I make it to final 3, it's nice to be there and like
I was in a very bad mental place where I basically told myself at final 9 I couldn't win the game. Not like it's not a winning strategy, let me tell you that. And so like I
that's when you
go
need to be telling yourself you can win the game. But
yes,
you
and so
you
that's
were
it.
like,
I
you
can't
know
win.
what? I got a brand new strategy. Nobody's ever tried. I'm gonna say I can't win.
Again, would not recommend. And so like I win final 3. I win the final 3 immunity, which is wow. I haven't won anything all season. I win the final 3 immunity. It's my perfect skill set balance. And part of me is like, can I just can immunity to someone else to vote me out? Because you still be the jury, just let me not deal with Final Tribal Council. And I knew at the moment, like, I'm choosing who wins. I'm figuring out who are the two players I want to win, and I'm going to choose Austin because I like him better. He's been a better friend to me and a better ally, and Mello has made me mad at because I felt Mello tried to strong arm me at certain points in the game, and I didn't like that.
So the question is, did you get a single vote?
I got a single vote that was
Nice.
against Austin, which the person told me that post game. I'm just like, well, you still voted for me, so I'll take what I can get. So it was not a shutout. I was surprised.
Did Mela vote for you?
No, no. I mean, let me
In a strange turn of events, your one vote came from Mela. No,
the best question that my opponent had from the jury was, "What hair product do you use?"
fair enough. Fair enough.
So I empathize with Mitch. It's hard, but like I think Mitch. See, what I like about what Kyle was doing is Kyle's like, even let's say Shaheen was being sincere. Shaheen's like, we are taking the shot at Eva Joe. We're making this happen. We gotta do it together. Kyle realized like, but I can't win if it's Shaheen's move.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it helps me, but I can't sit next to Shaheen. And Shaheen's like, let me tell you, I orchestrated it. And I brought in Kyle. Kyle's like, no, this needs to be my move. And so, what's the next best thing? Let him do his thing and take him out in the process. And it still counts as a blind. You saw Chris's reaction. Still counts as a blind side. Still counts the win. Still counts like equity for my books. And of course, you get the preview of the next episode where probably Final Four. He was like, I'm sorry, Kyle. My best shots with you on the jury.
And
we gotta differentiate ourselves.
You know, there's a lot of different things that could happen that could lead her to have that opinion or say that to him. And I think they're both going to be in the understanding. Like, I think they both know, like, my best shot of winning is with the other person not in the equation. Like, I think Camilla's best shot of winning is Kyle not being there. And I think Kyle's best shot of winning is Camilla not being there because.
So I think Kyle will beat Camilla regardless, because I think Kyle can say, hey, I was in the dominant alliance. I shepherded her, and this may not be true, and this is Camilla stands. My apologies, but I think Kyle could argue that his game is dominant compared to hers. Yes, they work together. Yes, their things happen in tandem, but I think he's in a better position to over her at the end.
Well, I think what we're about to get into is really like evidence of this fact that I think if they're at the final together, I think Kyle can beat her. Is, you know, Kyle goes to Camilla and is like, hey, we have to do this to get Shaheen out. We need to basically concoct this story of Shaheen and an idol, and he shows you the idol and you vouch for it and verify it. And that way people are willing to get him out of this game. And so Camilla's all about it. But Kyle brings this idea to her and Camilla's okay with it. And Kyle is giving all the risk really to Camilla. Like, Camilla's taking on all the risk for this move because if it goes wrong, then it's on her. And she could easily say, well, Kyle told me this. Well, Kyle could then go to the people that he's been close with
and lie.
And lie. And I think they're more apt to believe him than they would her, just because of, you saw how the votes went down. They believed in what he was saying.
It was wild that we never see Joe upfront verify with Shaheen. Now we get the scene later
that's
on.
One of my, you must be reading my notes again. That's in my notes verbatim. I said,
we know what we're doing, right? We've been doing this long enough. We read each other's thoughts.
I just said, you know, out of all the things, why didn't Joe just ask Shaheen? Like, why didn't he just, like, instead of, like, you saw how the conversation went down. Like, it was basically, Shaheen was like, what are you trying to say, Joe? Just say it. You know, and you would think Joe would be like, look, dude, here's what I heard. Talk to me. You know, but we never got that. We just got, Joe in his feelings, beating around the bush and kind of like dangling the carrot of truth or what he
It
heard in
was
front of Shaheen,
big
waiting for
Ken
Shaheen to bite it.
McNichol energy.
Yes.
That's like,
Yes.
let's test you. And like you kind of that's what Joe is doing here. He's testing Shaheen because like he's coming in for instance, he's like thinking like Shaheen has an idol. If he trusts me, he'll share it to me right now. And Shaheen's like, "What's up, dude? I'm being honest. Don't have anything. Don't know what you're talking about."
Yeah.
And like if Joe said, "Look, I'm hearing you have this. Show it to me, or tell, or like deny it." And Shaheen's like, "Well, I don't have it. How do you know?" It's like, "Well, Kyle told me that Camila saw it, and then." Then like you said, the heat's on Camila because it's gonna go back to her, and she's to say, "No, he did. I don't know why he's denying it."
Yeah. And I don't know. I think if you're Joe and you approach Shaheen that way and that's how it goes down, do you feel any different when it comes time to vote?
Well, I mean, it's
Like I
wild
don't
because like
I don't know
he,
how that would change things. I would still have this really tough time trying to decide, all right, who's lying and who's not.
well, you get the scene where like Eva's saying like ultimately I feel more comfortable with Kyle than Shaheen. Sorry, says like of the two, who would we naturally trust more? And like somehow Kyle has like sneaked his way higher on the trust order list.
Yeah. Obviously Joe is out there as a potential vote, but now that this Shaheen plan is in place, if Shaheen wins immunity, they have a backup option, which is Joe or Mitch. But if Joe wins, then it's like it almost forces their hand, like it's 100% this plan that they have to move forward with it. What would
You know
have
what?
pissed me off? What would have pissed me off is if they did all this and then Mitch goes home. Like,
Which I was honestly pretty expecting to have happen. I was like,
and
man, he's just going home. It's all none of this matters. So it's a very pleasant surprise at the end.
yeah. So we go to immunity. It's you throw a sandbag, knock down a rope, you throw a yarn ball through a wide target, you pull yourself on a barrel, like you are like balancing on a
Your Mom
barrel.
Thomas would be so proud.
Oh yeah. And then you crawl under a heavy net, snake ball mace, person who gets two balls in.
Are you watching Outlast?
Yes, I am.
And like I'm like Outlast has this exact same challenge. Like, oh, Outlast is like
They're
amazing.
on it. They got some inside intel. I don't know what's going on over there, but they're on the pulse of Survivor for sure.
Justin McCoubry has secret sources into
I'm
CBS
telling you.
Survivorland.
Telling you. Joe wins immunity. Fourth time he's won immunity. He's one off tying the record.
That's why you can't feed him.
Yep. But everybody's mad that Joe was picked for a reward. I mean, Mitch is just mad because he wasn't picked, I think, is what it
Which like if you're Joe, you should be like, Shaheen just took me an award yesterday. If he was trying to do something against me, he probably wouldn't have. Now you have to ask like how is there a perfect moment where it was Shaheen with Kyle or Shaheen with Joe? I'm thinking confessionals during that reward. I don't know.
So Joe wins. They go back to camp, and then it's Kyle tells Joe at the reward that Shaheen was saying him and Kyle are in the middle, and he wants to flip, and so like he's now starting to build the story to Joe about Shaheen having an idol, and he tells him that Camilla saw Shaheen show her an idol. Joe on edge already. He's like, "Oh, what is going on?" But like it's really weird though because I think you said it earlier. When Joe isn't at risk, he's usually not this way. But when he is at risk, he's a different person, and yet he has immunity, but like he's really getting like on the edge about what people are saying. And I get it. Like the vote matters as far as like trying to find the right people to in game wise with. But he's almost like trying to uncover the truth to the point where if I don't find out the person or who to vote for, then it's going to be me. But he's never going to be the option. But
well, Eva has the idol, and I don't know if this is conservative play, Yeah, I don't know if this is fixation on playing at Final Five, or just like, no, I don't need it and it's mine. I don't. If it's just like at any time, this idol could be played, and therefore Joe and Eva are both safe. And just like, I don't care. We're voting Mitch.
Yeah.
So it's like you can 3-3 tie it, and then Mitch is
I
going home no matter what.
I was telling my wife, I said, regardless of how you feel, like if you're Eva and you have this idol, regardless of how you feel, I would just play it just so I am 100%. I can't hold on to it after this. Like I can erase any what ifs or crazy things that might happen that were thrown. Like I'm just gonna play it and be done with it.
Yeah.
And that's part of I think where people have this tough time like grasping the liking the advantages and the idols is like you get to a point where you don't like she didn't need any of them. So what is the point of having them
Just
if
to effect. Yeah, I mean, again, I think unlike Sue's idol, I think Eva can argue her advantages strangled the game in her favor, right?
yeah,
The threat of me having them precluded me needing to play them because no one made a move because I had them.
right.
Right? It's because I had two things as the only one who had things, and it made people afraid. I think it's a much stronger argument versus Sue's like, surprise, idol, red-handed idol. Woo.
Yeah, we nobody knew kind of
No one
but
knew I was 42.
yeah. Joe, obviously hears out Kyle and he's like, all right, let me backtrack this. Let me fact check this story is basically what Joe's doing. So he goes to Eva and he's like, hey, I just got to make sure that I tell you what's going on. Um, and then he goes to Camilla and asks her about this story. And she corroborates the story, obviously, because her and Kyle have talked about it. But like Joe is so willing to go to Camilla and ask her directly what happened, but he's not willing to like it's almost like he's putting the trust in Camilla, who he's not aligned with to tell him a false truth or a truth,
Well,
but he's not okay
Camilla's
with going to his
essentially
alliance member.
Camille's kind of adopted into his alliance, right?
Yeah.
Essentially with David and Mary out, she steps in as the replacement, right? And so that we've kind of seen that built in. So I don't see it wild that he listens to her and trusts her to an extent. It is wild that like again, the not verifying with not being upfront with Shaheen saying, "Hey, dude, do you have an idol?
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, and
hearing you have an idol."
that's who he goes to last. And like, Shaheen's like, dude, just ask me what you're here to ask me because what you're saying doesn't make any sense.
And I love like
And could
Shaheen
you
real.
imagine though, Steven, like could you imagine like having that conversation with Joe? Like we as the audience have all the context into why he's saying the things that he's saying and how he's saying it and the manner that he's delivering it. But like someone like Shaheen is like, what are you talking about? Like I could see like myself being Shaheen and going like, where the hell is this like what are you saying? Just come out and say it.
I mean, I was reading where I think like that scene happens after Joe does his like farewell to his sister.
Mhm.
And so Shaheen kind of reads like maybe he's a little bit off because of that whole thing. Um, and I think Shaheen reads like this is weird, this is wrong. You hear and you see that great montage of him complaining to every single person but Mitch in the same spot about like what did I just experience?
And that's
But I think like it's like one of the things you want to pick up when you're playing is like people tend to act a little strange when you're the target and
yeah.
are thinking you're voting out. People either hold back or don't talk to you or maybe are quieter than expected. It's like, and I think that's something you get experience of playing games and blindsided, but like, people change how they act when they want to start targeting you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Shaheen, goes to, talks to Eva about Joe's conversation and, she just like hears him. Not a whole lot comes from it, but so then, I guess Shaheen, like you said, like is starting to in his head go, well, Joe just had this moment on the beach with his sister. Like maybe this is just
Yeah,
the
he
effect
rationalizes.
of that. And so he kind of continues status quo going to his, to people saying, "Hey, it's Mitch, it's Mitch, it's Mitch." Even Camilla tells.
Oh no, Daniel, you dropped off on my
But
end. Oh, you're back. Okay, your picture is moving again. Can you hear me? Oh no. Can you hear me now?
We're back. Yes,
right, perfect.
We're good. I was just saying that, Camilla, tells Mitch, "Hey, it's Shaheen," and she tells Shaheen, "Hey, it's Mitch. You're good, dude." Joe asks, Eva, is it possible that Kyle and Camilla are scheming? And so that's when you get, Eva saying, like, "I'm safe, you're safe. Like, really, I trust Kyle over Shaheen. And so, like, if we had to make a choice, like, I'm okay just writing Shaheen's name down." Joe, on the other hand, is really trying to, like, read in and try to, like, fact check and really trying to figure out who is doing what. But I think it is interesting that he toys with the fact, well, is Kyle and Camilla scheming? Because this is the first time we've had anybody other than David say anything to that effect. Like, second guessing what they're doing because Kyle and Camilla may be working together. So I'll ask you before we get into tribal, do you think, knowing what we know, Joe's safe, he's going to be in the next episode, do you think that starts coming up as topic of conversation between him and Eva? Is, I think Camilla and Kyle are scheming.
Sorry. So is the question? So what's the question exactly?
So, knowing that we're going to see Joe and Eva in the next episode, Joe ends this previous episode talking about, maybe it is possible that Kyle and Camilla are scheming. And this is the first time, like, he's specifically hinted at that. Now that we see the vote go the way the vote goes, do you think in this next episode we start getting Joe actually believing in?
No,
I think it could be.
Joe doesn't know that he just busted an ally. Joe doesn't know that he just took out someone who was pretty much with them, right? And so I don't think it's going to come out till final tribal. Like I don't think it's evidence. I do want to bring up one thing because I don't remember where it's in the episode, but I don't remember Shaheen or Kyle. They say Eva is not winning this game, and we don't want Eva on the jury because she's a vote and an advocate for Joe.
Yep.
Right. So what did you think when you heard that?
I think that's true. I think, but the same can be said for Joe. Like, if you keep in that scenario, you have to get rid of both Joe and Eva, because if Joe goes to the jury, he's going to vote for Eva.
Well, I guess it's more like Joe is a threat to win the game, but they're saying Eva is not. Right.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
And yes, either on the jury's an advocate for the other, but it's like, we're not worried about Eva because it's twofold. One, she's not going to win. Second, denies Joe a vote to win at the end.
True.
Because I think all you have left in your pool is to select Eva now, right? Eva or Kyle, which of the two?
Nope. I picked Eva this past one, so all I got is Kyle. So
okay, so that worked out really well then, because I think I was higher in Eva before hearing that comment saying, "Oh." I thought Eva would have more strategic arguments to end with her advantages, and that would give her recognition. But clearly, much like holding on to Adel very end, I guess it's not going to be. I think it's going to be attributed to Joe.
Yeah. So prior to tribal, knowing everything that you knew prior to them going into vote, how did you think it was going to go?
I thought it was like more likely than not. Mitch
everybody Mitch.
I was just like, with the way the seasons go, I think they play too cautious. I think Mitch goes home. and then I'm still left wondering, like, is this a story of why Joe won and why Kyle lost, or are we just going to see a brawl with the two of them at the very end?
Yeah.
But we don't get that. And then we don't get a sexy title like Operation Italy, but we do essentially get an not quite the when Kyle gave essentially his winner quote saying, survivors don't winning at the margins. Right. And then it's like his wins have all been due to savvy social play with causing his alliance to eat itself. I don't know if like he's my favorite, if he's coming to be my favorite new era winner, because like,
he's got to win. He's got to win first, Steven.
I mean,
Mitch is still in the game.
Sue can come from redemption and join too. I think. Okay, so if I look at, let me bring the Wikipedia. Something that's wrong. Wikipedia Survivor, because I want to make sure I don't mess up the winners, right? Because there's all these seasons blend together. I mean, I think Rachel played a very dominant, in-your-face physical game, but like she was basically on the run at the end. There was like win or die, right? I think Kinsey played a very social game, but I think you can probably take issues like, she didn't have it wasn't maybe the most commanding game, perhaps.
Right.
I don't know. D, I thought, played a really strong game, but she played from like the head of the dominant alliance, right? Yam Yam, again, kind of Yam Yam, Kinsey, Erica, Mary. I kind of put like these players who are social, who were able to like kind of dominate the end game and take it out. I think Kyle's playing very unique in like what we've seen from these last like 8 seasons, where he's a majority, but he's not the runner of the majority. But he's been able to craftily, socially shape the majority into his liking. That's been really cool to see.
He's been the shapeshifter. He's been blending in, or the chameleon, blending in with the side of the fence that he needs to at the right times. Like he literally has played the fence and played it beautifully, actually.
And what we hear from like him and Shaheen over and over, it's like, which I love. It's like, I don't want to make moves for the sake of making moves. It's like Jeff's like big move, and there's this denial of big moves, but it's saying like we want to make the right moves,
right?
And it's hard to know whether Shaheen was making the correct moves or not. We're never going to see him as endgame as evaluation, right? But it seems like Kyle, despite not taking these wild swings that maybe we, the audience, would have loved to see, is making these swings at very strategic times, and not even like blind. He's not even like he's able to do so with the blessing of the Godfather of Joe, because Joe's also taking out his enemies for him.
I think, if Joe votes Mitch and sees, like maybe feels and starts putting pieces together and figures out that Kyle and Camilla are together, I think he wins the game based off that.
Well, I mean, I think, yes, I think Joe's best case scenario is sitting with Mitch at the end, with Mitch and I think Joe's not going to do that, but imagine if if Mitch wins immunity at Final 5, my goodness, what a world we'd live in.
Oh man. Like,
if
it happens, very true. I think we're honestly being robbed of I think it would be intriguing to see a
Mitch-centric final 3.
Well, a final 3 with Shaheen and Kyle, knowing that Shaheen's a debate professor and Kyle is a lawyer now, and like having them like go at it. Like, I think that would be intriguing to me. But in Tribal, we get Eva voting Shaheen, Mitch voting Shaheen. Is this the first time Mitch has been on the right side of votes?
Oh boy!
Only because it was Shaheen or Mitch, and he can't vote for himself, so he was on the right side by elimination.
So we're gonna do so. Mitch voted Shaheen out. Mitch votes Mary out. Mitch did not vote Star out. All right, so it's 2. He did vote David out. He vote Chrissy out. He votes Say out. So he is.
Wow, that's not too bad. Better than I thought.
Is the only one he did not vote out was Star. So he's consistently been a majority because Mitch hates his minority.
True. Mitch votes Shaheen. Joe goes and believes Kyle. Votes Shaheen.
Camila
Shaheen.
votes Mitch.
Yeah, and Shaheen votes Mitch. Obviously, Camilla votes Mitch. Kyle votes Shaheen. And Shaheen goes home. But let's talk about that. Camilla voting Mitch. Is it as straightforward as it seems? Like she thought she's playing the role of thinking Shaheen is going to play an idol. He didn't, so she wants to play on the fact that she's throwing a vote out there against Mitch because she thinks that everyone's going to load on Shaheen.
I mean, I think she has a fair idea where Mitch is going. Sorry, where Shane's going. So I think it's a couple things. I think it's a safety vote, just in case, right? I think it's also to maybe, like you said, like are the two working together? Say like, hey, by having Kyle and Camila vote separately, it reduces the likelihood that they're both in on it. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you think they had do you think Kyle and Camilla thought that far into it? Okay, when it
I
comes
think there's
to
a
vote,
conversation at some point where they decide, hey, we're like, let's make sure like the votes are happening this way. And maybe this is a conversation that Joe and Eva are part of as well, knowing that Camila's vote's going there.
right? Well, we're down to Eva, Mitch, Joe, Camilla, and Kyle. We've got the final five, and we got one episode left, Steven. All right.
Hey, this again, episode 12 gets a lot of points, high grade, 9 out of 10. It's been a slow burn, and I appreciate like if this was just Mitch going, I've been like, wow, like we can double podcast. We've got no offense, but it's just like not really getting a lot because the action's all at the end, but we got some action. I think it's made for a bit more of an open season, a contentious finale. I think we have front runners.
Let's
We
talk
have
about
Mitch.
All right. Give me who goes home next, and then give me your final three, and then your winner.
Mitch, Camila. It's a Joe, Eva, Kyle. Final three. Kyle. Does he sweep? I think it's not unanimous. I think Joe picks up a vote or two, but Kyle wins.
I think I could see a scenario where Kyle, Joe, and Eva are final three, and then Kyle wins, but I could see them all getting votes. I think I could see Star voting for Eva.
The Star not gonna be bitter because Eva voted her out with the idol.
But yeah, I don't know.
Because let's think that. So
she gave her the idol.
Eva's playing the idol at final five, right? So Eva's not going to final five. Joe may win immunity, but let's say Joe doesn't, right? People are going to be wary to vote for Joe because Eva's like, well, I'm playing the idol for one of the two of us, and so it's going to leave it. I think we're going to have a Camila or Mitch as as an easy vote potential, unless Camila, like that scene we saw, Camila's like, it can't be me and you, Kyle. If she guns for him at 5, which I think would be, I don't know if it's the best. So I think Mitch goes home just because people aren't going to play around with the idol shenanigans. And then final 4, who knows? I mean, I just keep thinking Joe wins. Joe maybe sets the record for most immunity wins in a season. Even would bring the strong people to the end.
I mean, if that's the case, you're like, if he breaks the record, obviously he's going to be in final 3. But I could see a scenario like this. All right, Mitch goes home. Final 4. Joe or Eva win that final 4. All right. Joe's going to pick Eva to come with him. Eva's going to pick Joe to come with her, and leaves you with Kyle and Camilla battling it out. And this is a scenario where I could see that whole, like, what Camilla says to Kyle, like, both of us can't be in the, like, win. Well, of course not, because you're both going to go to fire and figure, like, one of you's going to win.
I mean, more wild, one of them wins immunity and, like, puts himself in the knockout the other, which please don't. But they could have.
I mean, so if Mitch gets to the point where that happens, I think he has to put himself in fire.
I mean, it's going to be the Heidi situation where Heidi does this thing. She puts herself in, she wins, she knocks the competitor, and people are like, that was cool. But there's another 14 days of gameplay we want to talk about and acknowledge.
And, you know, you're
And then Jeff
compelling.
Probst realizes maybe forced fire making isn't the thing I want it to be, but who knows?
Do you think they do that? I mean, I'm pretty certain. Like,
I think Joe and Eva keep each other safe. I think Kyle or Camila throw the other one of their parents into the fire against Joe.
do you see a scenario where Kyle and Camilla both are in the final three?
Be fun. I mean, one of them wins, the other one wins fire, and they fight it out. And again, I think it's unenviable for Camila's position. I mean, I want to say something that I really like about. I probably said this in other words, but think back to Rick Devens. Think back to where you have this force of nature who's trumping over their game, or think back to your Ben Driver, and these force natures trumping over the game with the idols advantages, and you just can't oust them.
Yeah.
Right? What do you do? Right? And in this case, you have Joe and Eva, these force of nature winning immunities with advantages. What do you do? And the answer is you need to play around them. You need to make sure like what's happening is not dictated by them; it's being dictated by you. Either they don't have input to the strategy, or they are going along with your master plan, right? And so that way, yes, you can set the end by a challenge beast, the person holding all the immunities and has like theoretically should have dominated the strategy this season. You say, no, actually, it was me.
Yeah.
So I think I think Kyle's doing something I've been thinking about for a while, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. I think we're in the same boat. I think Kyle is going to win. That's how I feel. I think he's
So
had a great game. I think he's played the best. I think at the final three, he can walk you through all the steps, no matter who's sitting with him. And I think he has a better case and a better story and just a better overall game than anybody that's still remaining.
So put a percentage on each player. What's the chance you think they're going to win? Just based off its final five, they have to get the finale and win the jury.
I mean, I guess the easy thing would say 20% everybody, but
you can do that.
I think Mitch has a 0% chance, so that increases everybody's percentage by 5. I think realistically, you probably have I would say like a 40% Kyle, like a 30% Joe, and then, maybe like a 20% or 15% Camilla, 15% Eva. Like, I think Camilla and Eva are right there together as far as having the same percentage to win.
Wow. So I'm going to go 75% Kyle, 20% Joe,
Wow.
5% Camila.
Wow.
I'm much like I think at this point, given what we heard about Eva and what we see about Eva, it seems like players, at least in game, are writing it off, which I don't think they should, but who knows? I'm not there. And then I do agree, Mitch, his win equity is low compared to the other players.
Yeah.
And then Mary made it. So Mary has a question.
What up, Mary? Do we believe the exit interviews the people don't care for Joe as much as the show is making it out to be? I don't know. I think you can't harp on people saying that they don't care for Joe because they're constantly going to Joe. Like he like if you don't like somebody, then show me you don't like somebody.
Yeah.
It's clear that nobody liked Mary because they didn't want to talk to her, and every idea she had, they shot down, and she knew where her place was, and she was vocal about it. I don't see any of those signs from anybody else in regards to how they talk to Joe. Now, what they say on their exit interviews after the fact, who knows?
Yeah. I think Rob has a podcast always says exit interviews aren't canon. Though Mary is reading my mind is Joe Ken McNichol, and we mentioned that Joe had big Ken McNichol energy when interrogating Shaheen this episode.
Yep. The took a page right out of his book for somebody who's not been like a Survivor like super fan. He's playing for his sister. Like pretty good page to steal from.
I look forward to being on Survivor someday so I can test the loyalty of my allies and see how well that goes.
Let's
While I'm at
go.
it, I will Zayn McKnight myself.
All right, Steven. Anything you got cooking? Obviously, tomorrow's a big day for you. You get to be done, like you get to finalize everything. The summer's approaching. Anything you want to plug or promote in the LRG world?
An ally of yours, Santi, is hosting a game in second week or somewhere mid-June. He's hosting a one-day Survivor game in Kyle,
Ooh.
Texas, which is just south of Austin. And so he's put up some posts announcing it, looking for 12 to 14 players. So if you happen to be in the Texas area or want to fly to Austin and want to play a one-day game run by Santi, definitely I would say give a shot.
Yeah, why not? I mean, one day game. It's going to be fast. It's going to be intense. You better bring your A game if you're ready for the one day event. But Santi is a pro. Like he's amazing. He's going to put together a great competition for everybody. So if you're looking to get into it, really, that's one that I would suggest, just because I know what you're going to get when you get into that. Here's a few more that we got cooking. Duos game, the challenge, New Jersey applications, July 12th, or filming is from July 12th to 14th. Applications are due are out now. You got Dirt Games episode 2 set to film on June 25th. You got this one, which is a duos game, Survivor Adventures, July 17th through the 21st in Southern Cal.
It's a long game.
Yeah, you've got this is multi-day. Let me go back to that. Sorry, multi-day Survivor game, upstate New York. Survivor, it's in Maryville, New York. Survivor Great Lakes. This is season 2. That's the 28th through the 31st of August, and they are casting now. They have Columbus Survivor season 5 application out. Genius Northwest.
Oh
Oh.
my gosh, I did not know there's a Genius game. Okay, this is good to know.
There you go. This is multi-day game, New York State. So Barefoot and Afraid applications next season. It's 7 days. It's a survivalist experience. You've got sensory inclusive games. This is cool. Live reality games for sensory inclusive games. Race for the Crown, Implications, Hang On, and Villain's Lair. All of those are ready for you to check out, get the interest form, and see what theirs are all about. And then you have Fight for Survival, June 14th, Austin, Texas. That's
There we go.
right there, doing his thing. We did, however, get the cast reveal for season 8 of Bloomington.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
I just look, we have 2 former Bloomington players coming back. So Mira, who was medically evacuated out of season 7, then Marshawn from season 6. And I am so fast to see Marshawn play a second time. I had really good interaction with him post game. I feel like he's a bit of a wild card still, but he played the 1 or 2 day Survivor in Indiana University. And so I know he played that. So I'll be curious what he's going to do with a little bit more experience under his belt, or if he's going to go for Banana Gate 3.0.
We shall see. It's going to be interesting, but the summer's here, and you're going to see a lot of these games kicking off. It's going to be nice. I know June is packed, July is packed. There's some in August. I mean, really up until the end of the year, you got a bunch of games that are getting ready to kick off, but it's going to be awesome. Hey, we got one more episode together, Steven. We get the finale. A lot to unpack there. We'll be back next week, hopefully. If not, based on Steven's busy summer schedule,
Life is hard.
Life is going to be hard for him, and we'll figure it out though. But Steven, any parting words before we get out of here?
Can't wait to see the finale.
Let's go. Well, this has been the Live Reality Games Podcast Survivor 48 recap. I'm Daniel. He's Steven. Y'all be good. If you can't be good, be safe. We're out.